Hi, this is Munson with Munson Music, and we're going to talk about how you can play a song called Whiter Shade of Pale. And we're going to start out kind of following the bass line, actually, where we play 3rd fret on the A string, and then 2nd fret on the A string, and then open A, and then 3rd fret on the low E string, and then 1st fret on the low E, and then open E, and then we got an open D, and then 3rd fret on the A string, and then we go low E string on the 3rd, and then 1st fret on the low E, open E, and then 3rd fret on the low E, and then we go to 3rd fret on the A string, and then 1st fret on the low E, and then 3rd fret on the low E, and then we go open A, and then 2nd fret on the A. And that's kind of a recurring theme, actually, that bass line through our song, actually, especially those first 4 measures, actually, which kind of get repeated for our verse and our chorus, as well as our intro with different tags. So we're going to kind of back those up with different chords, actually. And the notes you're actually playing doing that bass line, you got C, B, A, G, F, E, open D, 3rd fret on the A, or C, 3rd G, F, E, G, C, F, G, and then A, B. Really cool organ solo, actually, that happens while that bass line's going on. And if you wanted to kind of double that organ solo as kind of a lead part, you have the open E, and then another open E, and then an open E, and then 3rd fret on the B string, 1st fret on the B, open B, 1st fret on the B, 3rd fret on the B, open E, and then 1st fret on the B. And then I'm shifting this by octave, actually. If you want to keep it in as kind of a lead part, you go 5th fret on the high E string, and then 7th fret on the high E string, 8th fret on the high E string, and then we go to 1st fret on the high E string and do 1st to open E, and then 1st fret on the E, and then we go 3rd fret on the B string, and then we go to 7 on the high E string, and then 8 on the high E string, 10 on the high E string, and then we go back to 3, 1, 3 on the high E string, and then we go 1st fret on the high E, open E, 1st fret on the E, 1st fret on the E, open E, 3rd fret on the B, 1st fret on the B, 1st fret on the B, 3rd fret on the B, open E, 1st fret on the B, open B, 1st fret on the B, 3rd fret on the B string, and then open B, and then 3rd fret on the B, and then open E, and then 1st fret on the E, and then 3rd fret on the E. So all together we got E, D, C, B, C, D, E, C, A, B, C, F, E, F, D, B, C, D, G, F, E, G, F, E, F, F, E, D, C, C, D, E, C, B, C, D, B, D, E, F, G. While that bass line's going on, I'm kind of adding in the intro tag to that because I just think it sounds cool. So what you could do is you could kind of work that as a 2-part too if you're a little bit more adventurous, kind of, and you could do this hybrid picking, or you could do a finger style, or you could do kind of the bass note with the open E to kind of start. So you'd have 3 on the A string with open E, 2 on the A string with open E, and then open A with open E. And you could do this finger style too if that feels better. So then we got open A and open E, and then the 3, 1, 0, and then right when we do the 1st fret on the B string, we could kind of add in that 3rd fret on the low E string to kind of get the G note going on. And then 3rd fret on the B, open E, 1st fret on the B. So you got 3 and open, 2 and open, opens together, 3, 1, 0, 3 and 1, 3, 0, 1 is kind of an idea there. And then if you wanted to, you could kind of shift some of those upper notes. That A, B, C, we could shift to 2nd fret on the G string, open B, and then 1st fret on the B string to kind of get the low E string on the 1st fret for the F note at the same time. And then we have open E, and then open B, 1st fret on the B, and then we could do open D for that 1st fret open, 1st fret on the D with the open D. So 1, 0, 1, and you may want to think about even doing that as a pull-off hammer, kind of playing the 1st fret note, letting my 1st finger fall off the string and go back to the 1st finger. So 1, 0, 1 is kind of a hammer-on pull-off. And then we'd have the 3rd on the A and the bass, and then 3rd fret on the B string. And then we'd have 3rd fret on the low E string for the G note, and I'm kind of shifting that 7, 8, 10 to open B, and then 1st fret on the B, and then 3rd fret on the B to get 3 and open at the same time, and then do the 1st fret on the low E, and then the 1, 3 on the B string, and then we'd have open E with that 3, 1, 3, and you may want to try that as kind of that pull-off hammer-on idea too. And then we'd have 3rd fret on the low E, and then 1, 0, 1, and then 3 and 1 at the same time. So first fret on the high E string, third fret on the A string, and then 3, 1, and then when you get to that other first fret on the B string, you can kind of add in your F note on the high E string, and then you can kind of add in the third fret on the low E string for the open 1, 3, open, and then go to the open A for the 3, oh, and then go to the 2 on the A string for the 1, 3, and kind of split that lick. So that's a little weird at the very end. But I think that could be really cool to kind of try and work that as kind of a 2-part. And you could even try that finger style if you wanted to kind of get both those licks going on at the same time. So it might be kind of cool to intro the tune that way, or using a part of that for yourself to kind of work that however you want to kind of put it together for a cover. So that might be kind of an interesting thing to kind of try and do, is work it as a 2-part. Oh my gosh, it's Water Shade of Pale. I love that song. It's my favorite. So anyway, so that might be some licks you want to kind of play around with. But that bass line actually kind of is the clue to what chords are going on. So those bass notes, actually we could kind of attach different chords to those bass notes. And so that first bass note on the A string on the 3rd fret, kind of back that up with a C major chord. And when we play C major, first finger is going to go to the B string on the 1st fret, second finger is going to go to the D string on the 2nd fret, third finger is going to go to the A string on the 3rd fret, and if you strum all those together, that sounds a C major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. And actually, when that bass note moves, actually, what you could do is kind of lift off the 3rd finger and kind of take your 2nd finger and go to the A string on the 2nd fret. And that's something called C major slash B, or C with a B in the bass. And then for the A note, we could go to A minor. When we play A minor, first finger is going to kind of stay on the B string 1st fret, second finger on the D string on the 2nd fret, third finger on the G string on the 2nd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds an A minor chord. It sounds really, really sad. And then that would be for the open A note in the bass, and then we kind of have that 3rd fret on the low E string kind of happening. And actually, if you kind of put those together, that would be something called A minor slash G, or A minor with a G in the bass. And then from the A minor slash G, we'd be going to an F major chord, kind of to back up that 1st fret on the low E string. There's 2 ways you can kind of back that up. If you know the full bar F major, you do your 1st finger over the entire 1st fret, 2nd finger on the G string 2nd fret, 3rd finger on the A string on the 3rd fret, and the pinky on the D string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds like F major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. But if you're just starting out, or you just want to avoid the bar chords, you can completely play something called F major 7 instead. And the way you play F major 7, first finger is going to go to the B string on the 1st fret, second finger on the G string on the 2nd fret, and third finger on the D string on the 3rd fret. And we kind of strum just the D, G, B, and E, and that sounds something called F major 7. It sounds really groovy, happy. Like just came back from the 70s. Awesome. And then from the F major, that would kind of back up that 1st fret on the low E string note and the opening. And then when we get to the open D string, we back that up with the open, or with a D minor chord. When we play D minor, first finger is going to go to the high string on the 1st fret, second finger on the G string on the 2nd fret, and third finger on the B string on the 3rd fret. And if you kind of strum just the D, G, B, and E, kind of the skinny 4 strings, just like the F major 7, that sounds D minor, and it sounds really, really sad. And then from that chord, we kind of let that C note kind of happen on the A string. And if you kind of put those together, actually, that would be called D minor slash C. So if you're doing your D minor with the pinky, you got to get that 3rd finger to go to the A string on the 3rd fret. And then when that 3rd fret on the low E string happens, actually, we can play a G major chord. And the way you play G major, first finger is going to go to the A string on the 2nd fret, second finger on the low E string on the 3rd fret, and the third finger on the high E string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a G major chord. It sounds really, really happy. And the G major would kind of be going on for that 3rd fret on the low E string bass and that 1st fret on the low E string bass. And you can kind of cheat the G and do something called G slash F by doing 1st fret on the low E string and then 3rd fret on the high E string. You may want to try that with the 3rd finger or the pinky. And then for the open E string, that bass note, we kind of back that up with an E minor chord. When we play E minor, first finger is going to go to the A string on the 2nd fret, second finger on the D string on the 2nd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds like E minor chord. It sounds really, really sad. And then from the E minor, we kind of have that 3rd fret on the low E string happening. And actually, we could even back that up with the G chord. And then from there, we'd be going into our intro tag. And our intro tag kind of starts out on C major, goes to an F major, and then we go to a G major chord. And then there's kind of a cool little push at the end of that where you could go D minor and then G major. Kind kind of push back into that progression. Actually, it kind of starts at verse. But a lot of times with a song like this, to make it more interesting, I like adding something called a strum pattern. And one of my favorite strum patterns for a 4/4 like this is down, down, up, up, down, up. So you took the C and just tried that a lot. You'd have down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. So one way to kind of apply that is to kind of not worry about the bass notes actually, and just kind of do that whole strum pattern on each of our chords through that progression. So we tried that. We'd have C with the down, down, up, down, A minor, down, down, up, down, left, down, down, up, down, D minor, down, down, up, down, G, down, down, up, down, E minor, down, 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 up. And then if we try that strum pattern through our intro tag, the weird part is you kind of feel like you need to half the chords actually. And one way to do that is to do just a down, down, up on each chord. So we can kind of take the C and do a down, down, and then an F with a down, down, and then a G with a down, down, up. To kind of make this big push, you could kind of do that D minor, G at the very end. It's just kind of down strokes. So your intro tag, you got C with a down, down, F with a down, down, G with a down, down, E minor, down, G, down, and then we could kind of start that over again. Look at it from the very beginning and just kind of try our strum part. We'd start with our intro progression where we got the C with a down, down, up, down, A minor, down, down, up, down, F, down, down, up, down, D minor, down, down, up, down, G, tag. So we'd have the C with a down, down, F with a down, down, G with a down, down, D minor, down, G, down. And then from there we'd be going into our verse part, and our verse actually follows that same progression we started with. And we end up doing that progression, those first 3 bars actually 3 times. So if we tried that, we'd have C with a down, down, up, down, A minor, down, down, up, down, F, down, down, up, down, D minor, down, down, up, down, G, down, down, minor, down, down, up, down, up, and then we go right back to C. So we got C with down, down, up, down, A minor, down, down, up, down, F, down, down, up, down, D minor, down, down, up, down, G with down, 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 D minor, down, 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 and then we kind of hit our verse tag. And our verse tag, we're kind of mixing up some things. And our bass line there, we kind of follow the C, B, A, G, F, E of the other progression, but then we hit a D note and then a G note at the end. So you can kind of back those up with kind of a D minor and then a G on that one. And one way to kind of work that actually is doing down, down, up on each chord. So we could do the C, down, up, down, A minor, down, down, up, down, F with a down, down, up, down, D minor, down, down, G, down, down, up. Kind of get in that push at the very, very end. So that would be our verse tag, and then from there we're repeating that progression again, actually, that we started with for our chorus part. So then we got C with a down, down, up, down, A minor, down, down, up, down, F, down, down, up, down, D minor, down, 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 G, down, 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 yeah, E minor, down, 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 but then we go to our chorus tag, and our chorus tag kind of halves a C and then an F and then a C and a G. So we can kind of do down, down, up on each of those chords. So we'd have C with a down, down, up, F with a down, down, C with a down, down, G with a down, down, and then we'd be back to our intro progression for kind of our next for the organ solo at the very, very end of our chorus. So we tried that, then we'd have C with a down, down, up, down, A minor, down, down, up, down, F, down, down, up, down, D minor, down, 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 G with a down, 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 E minor, down, 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 and then we kind of hit our intro tag again. So we got the C with a down, down, F with a down, down, G with a down, down, E minor with a down, G with a down, and then you basically be repeating repeating those parts, actually kind of going back through those first 3 bars, intro tag, back through that progression twice, verse tag, back through that progression one time for the chorus, chorus tag. So that would be one way to kind of play through it. Now if you're digging on that bass line, and I definitely dig on this bass line, one way to kind of work it through the tune is kind of a bass down up and get all your bass notes in. So if you wanted to, you could kind of do your C with an A string for your bass, and a lot of times on a C chord you'd have the C string or the A string for your bass. And that's the lowest note with the name of the chord. And randomly, if you're digging on that C/B idea, you can kind of take your second finger and get the second fret on the A string for your bass. So I'm still doing A with the bass, down, up, down, C/B with an A bass, down, up, down. On your A minor, you'd have the A string for your bass. So A minor with an A bass, down, up, down. If you were doing the A minor/G to kind of get that low E string note in, then you'd have the low E string for your A minor/G. And then for the F major, if you're doing the bar chord, you'd have the low E string for your bass. If you're doing the F major 7, you might want to think about doing the D string for your bass. Down, up, down. Maybe you're 7 with the D bass. Down, up, down. On the E minor chord, we have the low E string for the bass. So low E bass, down, up, down. You want the low E bass, down, up, down. On the D minor, you'd have the D string for your bass. Now on the F major though, if you wanted to, you could kind of get in that open E bass note by kind of lifting off the bar just a little bit to kind of get the open E to kind of ring in your F chord. And that's a little tricky. On the F major 7, actually, you may want to kind of thicken it up by if you take first finger on the B string, first fret, second finger on the G string, second, third finger on the A string, third, and take the pinky and go to the D string on the 4th fret. That's kind of still an F major 7. So you may want to think about using that for kind of that F with the bass, and then going to the open E bass. Or you could even do it on the D string and kind of do your D string, 3rd, 2nd fret on the G string kind of for your bass through that. So that may be a couple options on the F major chord. And then for the D minor chord, we'd have the D string for our bass on the D minor chord. And then for the D minor/C, we'd have the A string for our bass. So D minor/C with an A bass, down, up, down. On the G chord, you have the low E string for your bass. And if we're doing the G/F sharp, you'd have low E string for your bass. And then on the E minor chord, you have the low E string for your bass. And if you wanted to, but if we just try to just our bass down, up, down through that progression just to practice it, we'd have C with an A bass, down, up, down, C/B with an A bass, down, up, down, B minor with an A bass, down, up, down, B minor/C with low E bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, F/C with an A bass, down, down, or D minor with D bass, down, down, B minor/C with an A bass, down, down, G with low E bass, down, down, G/F, down, down, B minor with low E bass, down, down, G with low E bass, down, down. So you could kind of add in the basses to it that way on this bass line. One way to kind of get it in is to do kind of a bass note and then a down up through the chord progression. So we can do the C with an A bass and then do the down up on that chord. And then we could kind of switch to the C/B with the A bass. And then we can go to A minor with an A bass. We have A minor/G with a low E bass. And then we have the F with a low E bass. And then you go to the F/E with an open E bass. And then D minor with a D bass. D minor/C with an A bass. And then we have the G with low E bass. G/F with low E bass. E minor with low E bass. And then G with low E bass. So that might be kind of an interesting way to kind of work it too. You can kind of get into that bass line with the chord. So you'd have C with an A bass, down C/B with an A bass, down B minor with an A bass, down B minor/G with low E bass, down F with the bass, down F/E with an A bass, down D minor with D bass, down D minor/C with an A bass, down G with low E bass, down G/F with low E bass, down D minor with low E bass, down G with low E bass, down. And then if we took that idea and kind of applied it to a kind of our verse tag or our intro tag, we'd have C with an A bass, down F with the bass, down G with the low E bass, down up, and then we can still kind of keep our hits with D minor, G at the end of that. And if we tried that idea through our verse tag, we'd have C with an A bass, down C/B with an A bass, down B minor with an A bass, down G with low E bass, down F with the bass, down up F/E with low E bass, down up D minor with D bass, down up G with low E bass, down up. So we want to kind of play around with that too. And then if we tried that idea through our chorus tag, we'd have C with an A bass, down up F with the bass, down up C with an A bass, down up G with low E bass, down. Now if you're a little bit quicker, you can kind of work a little bit quicker strum pattern on the bass notes too. So going back into that part, actually on the C chord, you could do kind of a bass and then do a down, down, up, and actually kind of fill a little bit more time. time with that, especially if you're a little bit quicker. So if we tried it that way, you'd have C with an A bass, down, down, C slash B with an A bass, down, down, A bar with an A bass, down, down, A bar slash E with an A bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, F slash E, down, 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 D bar with an E bass, down, down, D bar slash C with an A bass, down, down, G with an A bass, down, down, G slash F, down, down, E bar with an A bass, down, down, G with an A bass, down, down. And if we tried that idea through our intro tag, we'd have C with an A bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, G with an A bass, down, down, D minor, G, to kind of lead back in. And if we tried that through our verse tag, then we'd have C with an A bass, down, down, C slash B with an A bass, down, down, A bar with an A bass, down, down, A slash G with an A bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, F slash E, down, down, D bar with an E bass, down, down, G with an A bass, down, down. And if we tried our chorus tag with that idea, then we'd have C with an A bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, G with an A bass, down, down. And then we basically be repeating those parts with those 3 different tags through the song. So just to kind of try that one more time with our bass down, down, up, then you can have C with an A bass, down, down, C slash B with an A bass, down, down, F with an A bass, down, down, slash G with an A bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, slash E, down, down, D bar with an A bass, down, down, D bar slash C with an A bass, down, down, G with an A bass, down, down, G slash F, down, down, D bar with an A bass, down, down, G with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down. But that's the basics of how you could strum through Whiter Shade of Pale, so good luck!